And let's begin, please, with a roll call.
Mayor Seaman?
Here.
Councilmember Castellano?
Here.
Councilmember Moulton?
Here.
Councilmember Arroyo? Here. Councilmember Bauer?
Here.
And Councilmember Burgell?
Here.
All right. I am going to start today with a land acknowledgement. The land that Eureka rests on is known in the Wiyot language as Jarujiji. Past actions by local, state, and federal governments removed the Wiyot and other indigenous peoples from the land and threatened to destroy their cultural practices. The city of Eureka acknowledges the Wiyot community, their elders, both past and present, as well as future generations. This acknowledgement demonstrates the city's commitment to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism. And with that, we did not have a closed session, so there is nothing to report out from closed session today. And I will ask you all to join me, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we are going to start today with a proclamation for the 30th annual Letter Carriers Food Drive. That is going to be read by Councilmember Bauer, and I do believe we have a representative to accept that today. So you could either come up to the podium now or you could wait till it's over. It's up to you.
Thank you. So this is in recognition of the 30th annual Letter Carriers Food Drive, May 14, 2022. Whereas every year on the second Saturday in May, letter carriers across the country collect non-perishable food as part of the nation's largest one-day food drive, distributing the donations to local food banks such as Food for People, the Food Bank for Humboldt County, and its partner pantries in individual local communities. And whereas since 1993, the letter carriers Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive has collected more than 1.75 billion pounds of food nationwide, and in 2019 brought in more than 75.7 million pounds of food in more than 10,000 cities in all 50 states. And whereas more than 38 million people live in hunger every day in America, including more than 12 million children. Whereas Humboldt County letter carriers collect more than 48,000 pounds of food from local community members in 2019, providing critical food resources for Food for People's countywide network of 17 food pantries, serving more than 16,000 Humboldt County residents of all ages. And whereas the rising cost of living, including gasoline, housing, utilities, and medical care, is having a serious impact on low-income children, seniors, and families, particularly those living on fixed incomes. And whereas we recognize all the letter carriers for their hard work and their commitment to their communities, and we appreciate community members' support of the food drive, all of the food collected in each community stays in that community. Now, therefore, I, Scott Bauer, on behalf of the Eureka City Council, do hereby proclaim the day of Saturday, May 14th, 2022 as the National Association of Letter Carriers Food Drive Day, and ask all residents of Eureka for their support by leaving a non-perishable food donation next to their mailbox on the second Saturday in May for the letter carrier to pick up and to deliver to local food banks and pantries.
Thank you very much. And just make sure the green light is on if you want to say anything.
Hi, I'm Michaela. I'm the Pantry Network Coordinator for Food for People, and I'm so grateful to all of our partners, community members, and especially the hardworking letter carriers, and we could not do this without them. Particularly, the carriers work double duty on this day. It's their union activity and not done by the post office, so they're doing two jobs at once, so on a Saturday. So we're super grateful to work alongside them. In Humboldt County, we've collected more than 1 million pounds since they started doing the food drive in 1995. And this food is critical, especially this time of year when kids are starting to be out of school and we've already run out of the holiday food drive. So this is really, really important for our community, and I'm really grateful that everybody's participating.
Thank you. Do you still need volunteers to help sort it on that day? I know that you often...
Yes, volunteers are needed. Usually more than 75 volunteers donate their time on Saturday, May 14th.
So they could just call Food for People if they would like to participate?
Yes, Food for People, and then Julie is our volunteer coordinator, and Allison is coordinating the food drive this year. It will also take place at the First Presbyterian Church. So show up on that day and you probably will still be needed.
Excellent. Thank you. And I know we have a letter carrier here as well. Do you have anything you want to add?
Hey everybody, my name is John Hufancia. I am a letter carrier at the Eureka Post Office. I'm also the proxy in the meantime as this event goes on. The bags themselves that we typically distribute are going to be going out sometime the next week or so. We're distributing them to the different cities, so Eureka, Arcata, Fortuna, Garberville, Rio Dell will be getting their bags shortly. Now, I do have a note to make sure people understand. The bags themselves typically have a date on them, but since we had the pandemic occur, the bags are still dated from 2019. So in supplement to, there should be some postcards that will be also coming out as well for those that want to do additional donations. But we look forward to seeing everybody on May 14th.
All right. And do you have any recommendations for like the best, most needed items for people to donate?
Yes. The most needed items are protein items like canned soups and stews, canned meat, nut butter, canned fruit and juice, not syrup, and canned vegetables. And please avoid donating glass, anything expired or in a damaged container, or anything made from home. I know it's probably wonderful, but we're not able to distribute it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have the Peace Officer Memorial Week Proclamation, and that's going to be read by Councilmember Burgell.
Thank you. Did you want to come forward, everyone? What a great looking bunch. City of Eureka Proclamation. In recognition of California Peace Officer Memorial Week, May 8th through May 14th, 2022. Whereas the state of California has declared the week of May 8th through May 14th, 2022 as California Peace Officer Memorial Week, and Friday, May 15th, 2022, National Peace Officers Memorial Day in the city of Eureka. And whereas the Congress and President of the United States have designated May 15th as National Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week of May 15th through May 21st as National Police Week. And whereas the members of the Eureka Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the city of Eureka, and it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices their law enforcement personnel, and that members of our law enforcement agency recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. And whereas the men and women of the Eureka Police Department unceasingly provide a vital public service. Now, therefore, I, Kim Burgell, City Council Member, on behalf of the Council and the Mayor, and call upon all citizens of the city of Eureka and upon all patriotic, civic, and educational organizations to observe the week of May 8th through May 14th, 2022 as California Police Week, with appropriate ceremonies and observances in which all of our people may join in commemorating law enforcement officers, present and past, who, by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities, have rendered a dedicated service to their communities, and in so doing, have established for themselves an enviable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens. I further call upon all citizens of the City of Eureka to honor those law enforcement officers who, through their courageous deeds, have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community or have become disabled in the performance of duty, and let us recognize and pay respect to the survivors of our fallen heroes. Let us especially remember those Eureka police officers who died in the line of duty: Pete Carroll, Pat Mitchell, and Charlie Swanson. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Thank you, Councilmember, Mayor, Council. I'd like to just give you a couple brief comments, and I'm going to pass it off to a couple members of your police department that I'd like you to hear from. But I've policed now in portions of 5 different decades, and I can't think of a time where it's more important for our law enforcement to hear from you than right now in this point in history. So thank you very much for doing this. Thank you for honoring those that have gone and paid the ultimate sacrifice. Many of them were my friends. And for the family members here that have lost EPD officers, thank you for recognizing that. But thank you so much for recognizing the people that go out every day, every night, keep this community safe. They're doing a great job. I'm very proud of them. Captain?
Yeah, I'd just like to take a second to thank you for recognizing our fallen officers, our 3 fallen officers, and their family members. Some of them still live in this community. And it's important for us, not only in the month of May, but also throughout the year, to let them know that we will never forget the sacrifices that their loved ones made for the city and the sacrifices they make every day now that they don't have their loved ones home anymore. So I just want to make sure that publicly we tell them, thank you for your sacrifices. We have not forgotten you. We will never forget you. And you will always be on our minds, but especially this month of May when it's Law Enforcement Memorial Week. I do want to thank the men and women who are standing beside me, because without them, this city would not be in a good place. They were very dedicated employees. And I also want to thank our family members who came out and staff that came out tonight to support us. That just goes to show you the love that this department has for one another and the dedication we have for this city. So I thank you for your time and thank you for the proclamation. Joy.
Thank you, Council, for having us and for reading this proclamation. My name's Joseph Couch. I've been an officer with EPD for about 5 years now. Sorry, I'm a little nervous, but I just want to thank you guys for showing your support for us, allowing us to speak here. I want to thank everybody that's attending here today, as well as those watching via Zoom. Thank you for your support for the Eureka Police Department, as well as all the other officers that serve our communities, whether local, national, or state. I want to thank each and every officer that I work with daily that put the uniform on and continue to make attempts to excel in providing excellent service to the city that we serve. As many may know, EPD's been faced with some adversity over the last couple of years, but one thing's for certain is that we have not given up. The people that are here today continue to strive for excellence and provide the best service to the people we serve every single day that we come to work. And to all the family members out there that continue to support us and sit in the shadows and watch us do our job, I think they're the true heroes, and they're the ones that should be thanked every day by anybody that sees them. So again, thank you for allowing me to speak here and allowing us to attend this meeting. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your service, guys. And it's so nice to hear. I love to hear from Captain Stevens and the chief, but it's really nice to get to hear from the others as well. So thank you for, even with your nervousness, speaking up. It was very nice to hear from you. Next up, we have Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month proclamation.
Great. So we have some community members here to receive it. Feel free to come on up. Hi, Bree. So this is a proclamation in recognition of Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, May 2022. Whereas the month of May carries significance to Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders because of two historic events. May 7th, 1843, the first recorded arrival of immigrants from Japan to the United States, and May 10th, 1869, which marks the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad, a monumental project made possible by primarily Chinese laborers despite discriminatory and unsafe conditions and without acknowledgement, which is now recognized as Transcontinental Chinese Railroad Workers' Day. And whereas the city of Eureka recognizes that in 1885, prevailing anti-Chinese hatred and scapegoating resulted in the expulsion of nearly 500 Chinese residents of Eureka and Humboldt County. Consequently, Eureka's Chinatown was completely eradicated, and the structural racism and systemic discrimination continues, preventing Chinese immigrants and Asian Americans from residing within the city of Eureka from 1885 through the 1950s. And whereas Eureka and Humboldt County have benefited from and continue to appreciate the cultural and civic contributions of our Asian and Pacific Islander community members since the 1950s, when they overcame the discriminatory environment and returned to Eureka to reside in and open businesses in Eureka. And whereas the city of Eureka urges community members to support and learn from organizations such as the Humboldt Asian and Pacific Islanders in Solidarity, HAPPY, the Eureka Chinatown Project, and the Cal Poly Humboldt Asian, Desi, and Pacific Islander Collective. Now, therefore, I, Natalie Arroyo, on behalf of the Eureka City Council, recognize the month of May 2022 as Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month in the city of Eureka, and encourage all community members to join us in acknowledging and celebrating the local and national contributions and lived experiences of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. Founded on the unceded territory of the Wiyot people, the city of Eureka will continue to welcome a community of immigrants and immigrants' descendants from around the world to form a strong, diverse community with a goal of inclusion and equitable representation of all residents.
Thank you so much, council members and council member Natalie Arroyo. This is really exciting to be working with you for the second year now to bring an AAPI month proclamation forward in May. And I really think that this is a really strong start to starting to dismantle racism in our community and build a more inclusive future. I'd also like to thank the Eureka Chinatown Project members, as well as the Humboldt and Asian Pacific Islanders in Solidarity Happy Group for all that they've done, and also Mitch Higa for stewarding this proclamation forward for a second year in a row. So thank you, everyone. I would like you all to come and celebrate with us on Saturday, AAPI month. We are hosting a Year of the Tiger celebration, which was postponed from February. Supposed to be a Lunar New Year celebration, but now we are celebrating AAPI month, as well as all of the achievements of the Eureka Chinatown Project over the last year. When I think about the Chinese expulsion that started in 1885 and ultimately lasted through the 1950s and beyond, I think about what our community could have been like, what the Asian American community could have been like if we were here all that time. And I imagine celebrations, and I imagine people coming together and businesses and families thriving in this area. And I believe that we can bring that back. And I think it starts with this proclamation. It starts with the Eureka Chinatown Project, all of the activism that's happening in our community. And it starts with people coming out. So we hope that you all come out to celebrate. We will start on Saturday at noon. We will be doing a history talk with the Clark Museum with Jean Filzer, who is the author of Driven Out, The Forgotten War Against Chinese Americans. And that is on Zoom or in person. We will be doing a ribbon cutting ceremony at 3 p.m. and that will be at the mural of the Chinatown mural on E Street between 4th and 5th Street. And at Arts Alive that evening from 6 to 9, we'll be hosting a street festival in front of the Clark Museum. We will be bringing out line dancers. So they will be performing at 3 p.m., 6 p.m., and 7 p.m. And we'll have lots of crafts and music and cultural performances. It's a great way to bring the family out and learn more about Asian American culture and celebrate with us. So thank you.
Thank you. See you on Saturday.
See you on Saturday.
So I'm going to move the mayor's report to after presentations. And so at this time, I would like to invite Mark Wheatley to come up and introduce the Alice Burney School students.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Also want to thank all of you for your public service too, and your officers that were here earlier. Also want to thank your staff, because your staff has been super supportive of this. And I know what big supporters of the local arts all of you are. And so with that, I would like to point to the wall over here that is displaying some of the latest works of art and future muralists that'll be coming out of Alice Burney. So with that, I want to I would like the artists to come forward from Miss Warren's class. This is first grade class at Alice Burney. And so I'm going to turn it over to Miss Warren and the important people here and their principal. So Miss Warren's going to introduce all of her young artists as part of our Alice Burney Eureka Partnership and Young Artist Apprentice Program.
Thank you.
So I would like to introduce, this is Karina, and we have Aislene, and we have Anna Vea, and Delaney, and Lenny. And they're all amazing students. I'm so proud of them. Incredible.
Thank you. You guys did some very nice art. I have enjoyed it so much since it hung up. I saw it the first day and was very happy. What do you guys think of being here, huh? You like it? Tell you what, I have something for you. Hold on just a second.
Oh, you'll go last. Would anyone like to say
Please
anything?
do. Does anybody want to speak first before I come down?
Okay. There you go. Go ahead. Talking to the mic.
Oh.
Okay. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Queena, and what am I supposed to say?
That's enough. Just say thank you for inviting me here.
Thank you for inviting me here.
You're welcome to come anytime. Anybody else want to say anything? No?
Well, I'll say good evening to you, Council. It's very nice to be here. So I'm Kristen Sabillo. I am the proud principal of Alice Burney. I did bring you some bling bling. I have some stickers for you. I thought maybe, you could sport some Alice Burney gear. But also, we would like to cordially invite you. I hear you may have plans on Saturday, and I'd like to give you some plans for Friday evening. Alice Burney will be putting on our multicultural fair, a tradition the Eagles have had many years before me, and it's very exciting to do this work with Kathy Warren. And we'll have food from all around the world. We encourage you to wear clothing from your culture so you can join our fashion show. And we invite you to come to Alice Burney. So 5:30 to 7:30 Friday evening. And we look forward to seeing you all. I will just say, to let you all know, the work that we get to do with some of you sitting right there has been very powerful this year. And I look forward to years forward of that joint effort. So thank you for your support. Thank you for always being there for us when we have a question about what's going on in the world. You'll answer that about Eureka. It's a great tool to have as an administrator. So thank you very much for that. I would like to recognize this woman who's standing next to me, Kathy Warren. Kathy teaches first grade at Alice Burney. I'll remind everyone of what you do in first grade. That is learning letter sounds, learning how to put those sounds together, and learning to read. And so I just want to honor this woman in front of you who has taught many students here in Eureka how to read, City Council. And so this is Kathy Warren, and we are very, very pleased to be here with you this evening. Our students are incredible people. They're a little shy, I can tell. They do have lots to say when we leave, so. Okay.
And I do know Council Member Moulton is super sad that she couldn't be here in person today, but she has a bit of a cold. But I think she's going to have a future student. So do you have anything you wanted to add, Council Member Moulton?
I am sorry I wasn't there tonight to meet you all in person. I do love to meet artists of all ages. I just wanted to say that I'm very proud of all of you, and I'm very proud of my neighborhood school.
So if you guys all hang tight, hold on just a sec. I'll be back. We're going to have a special ceremony to thank you. That's a beautiful dress you have on. Do you mind if I put a hole in your dress with this one? Would you like to? You have something to say? What would you like to say? Come on up. She's on here. To everybody. Speak loud and you can say it. Do you mind if I put this on right here? You don't like that? Thank you. Oh, nice. You don't like the what? You don't like to talk loud? Yeah, I understand that. That's okay. Do you want me to pass on a message for you?
I need one now. Thank you. Thanks so much. And I think Leslie needs one too. Thanks, Leslie.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. I'm going to get the rest of them, okay? Okay, you think about what you want to say.
That way, then we
Hold on just a minute. Let me get them. Their pens. Yes, it is. Go ahead and do that.
You are welcome at Uss Liberty anytime, though. The students would love that.
Okay, one more time. So go ahead and say what you want to say. One more time.
I'm glad that everybody is here and the police saved our apartment and there are.
Could you guys pipe down so we could hear from the kids?
Thank you.
Thank you.
That that help our apartment and that help the Uss.
Thank you very much. That was very nice. Okay, did we shake hands? Shake hand. Shake hand. We got one more over here. And then we'll let you guys go. Thank you so much. These are pins that are official City of Eureka pins. Those are stickers that you guys have from your school that you gave to us. It's like an exchange. And just right through here, okay? And we're going to give your teacher the rest of these so that everybody knows. Thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Now we are going to move on to the mayor's report. I have a few things to announce that I've done, and then I have a statement that I would like to read. I attended the Every Student Succeeds breakfast, which is my favorite event of the year, where we get to recognize students who are resilient and who have overcome great obstacles to be successful students. We had another dental catalyst meeting in an effort to provide more access to dental health in our community. I attended Pathway to Payday, which is a program, it's a job development program, which I believe had a 97% success rate in hiring participants. So they went through a series of classes, applied for jobs, interviewed for jobs, and 97% of them are now starting work. So that is always a very exciting event to attend. And I also participated in Take Your Kid to Work Day, which had a great deal of participation from the city of Eureka. One of the things I really appreciate about the city of Eureka is how much they value family and their work. And it definitely showed that day. And I just want to share a story that Assistant City Manager Powell shared with me today, which is that she brought her daughter to work when her daughter was a student and now works here and likes it much more than apparently she did on the day she attended with Pam because she thought her job was really, really boring. And she worked at the fire department then, so that was the exciting place. So those were all of the things that I worked on. But I also wanted to make a statement about our last city council meeting, because at that time I said something that was interpreted differently than I meant it. During public comment, I heard at least 3 people reference the proclamations and reports that precede it as frivolous, and the city council doesn't work on real issues. When closing public comment, I said that we were going to move on to the real work. What I meant was we would move on to the part of the agenda where decisions are made, and it's sometimes on those very issues that are important to the speakers who come in here. It was meant to be a little snarky towards the litany of barbs that I listened to. But the reality is I took the bait, and I should have known better. The statement that I made was misinterpreted, but it was interpreted that I thought public comment is not important. And so I'm addressing this because I really want people to know that public comment is critical to the job that we do here. I've seen public comment change opinions, delay actions, and mitigate the impact of other actions that we take here on council. It takes a commitment of time and effort, and sometimes overcoming public speaking fears, to speak up for the betterment of your community, and everybody here really does appreciate that. But that said, all public comment is not equal. What we've been seeing in chambers in the last several meetings has been a growing hostility that is not useful to us as decision makers. In fact, I believe our recent public comment speakers have become a deterrent for others who do want to share their opinions, because I have had people tell me they left chambers when they didn't feel safe. During the last meeting, I heard someone harass a member of the public after they received a proclamation. We had heckling and commenting from the audience, and there were multiple instances of curse words being used. Speakers also made vague and personal attacks against specific council members. Finally, during public comment, inaccuracies, conspiracies, hyperbole, and lies are offered, and we are not able to address them, and that gets very confusing to the public. But for those who do have things they want to share with the council, you are always welcome. We love hearing from a variety of voices. I've had many meaningful, thoughtful, and useful conversations with people who may not traditionally align with me politically in general, or who I differ with on a specific issue. I've had differences of opinions with people with whom I generally align on issues, and we've had some really tough disagreements. Among council, we regularly have disagreements, but one thing that we always strive for is healthy debate with respect for each other as individuals. In this job, every topic has layers of nuance, and decisions require that we take all of that into consideration. When providing public comment, it's helpful to remember that perspective. Besides public comment, I want to remind folks that we're available for phone calls, email, and private meetings. So if you want to have a conversation or you're looking for information, those are the better ways to reach out to us. Public comment is most appropriate when you want to share your public opinion on something. Both of those have value, and you can choose whichever one will provide the most for what you need for your meeting. As we move forward to public comment today, I want to share that there's an expectation of decorum, and I will read it aloud before we start that part of the meeting, which is next. And I also want to say that I appreciate those who put in the effort to identify specific policies, codes, and processes that can help us become better at serving our community. And with that, I will introduce public comment. This is the time for members of the public who wish to be heard on matters that do not appear on the agenda. Time is limited to 3 minutes each. And as promised, I will read the rules of decorum, which are that we may disagree, but we will be respectful to one another. All comments will be directed to an issue at hand. Personal attacks are unacceptable, and we will expect you to address the council and not individuals. And applauding or other displays of approval or disapproval are discouraged. And with that, I will open up public comment.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. I was recently at the celebration of life for William Dobrenstein, the Fortuna Police Chief who passed away. It was nice to see the Chief of Eureka and Captain Stevens there. I really thought that was great that they came. And we had a meeting in Fortuna. We've started a new group, Ronoville Park, Fortuna Community Watch, and we met with the chief there. We had about an hour-long meeting with him. He's really happy about it and supports it 100%. He's gonna start up the Citizens on Patrol program very soon for people that want to keep a watch on the community. And I know you're always talking about, pedestrians getting ran over and stuff. And on my way home from Eureka last week, I was going south on 101 to Eureka. And right there at Lost Coast Brewery was a person in there who was doing that back and forth in the transit waiting area, the little bench in the glass house. And then he kept going back and forth across 101, almost got hit once. So I decided to call the Eureka Police Department. Told the dispatcher what was going on, and she basically didn't want to hear anything I had to say and wanted to know how he was disrupting traffic. Well, I said, well, he's pretty much dancing on 101 back and forth in front of traffic, and she didn't seem like she wanted to have anybody look into it. So I thought that was pretty sad. The chief of police in Fortuna, he wants people to call in when stuff like that's happening. He wants people to be aware and let them know. And man, it's hard to remember everything when you're up here, but people are going to get run over if they keep doing that. I'm sorry. Good God, I got something to say and I totally blanking it. You say be civil with council members. I've been really civil. I've talked to Kim many times and told her that I'm not against her, that this is political, and I'm sure she can verify it to you. I talked to her yesterday, and she tells me you guys are doing positive things. I wish you would let the public know what those are, because a lot of people don't know. There's a lot of keyboard warriors on groups and just on Facebook in general that talks about how bad Eureka is and nobody's doing nothing, but a lot of them don't come here. A lot of them are scared to come here, especially business owners. And well, I'm really blanking tonight. We're just here to try to make the community safer. We're not here to bombard you or belittle anybody here. And we'd like to see that our efforts to speak here are really taken seriously, because it is serious. Eureka is pretty unsafe. Something happens every week on the waterfront trail or in Old Town, and people don't feel safe. And you can also see those comments all over on these groups. The people want to talk about it on their keyboard, but they don't want to address nothing. So, sorry I blanked out. But thank you.
Good evening. My name is Heidi Chandler. I really didn't want to have to be here, but I'm really disappointed in how the things for Old Town are going. And I want to start by saying, shame on y'all. You didn't listen to the store owners or the property owners in regards to removing the parking lot, and they're struggling to stay open, to keep your Old Town viable for people. Shame on you for removing the only van-accessible parking for offloading somebody in a wheelchair in Old Town. It is embarrassing enough for these people. That's what I do. I work for in-home support. I drive these little old ladies around, and you have no place to offload a van for somebody in a wheelchair. And you've lied to the public. You aren't making low-income housing with this homeless hub. What you're doing is 10% of any housing in California has to be for low income. I'm really disappointed y'all have drank the Kool-Aid and lost your morals. I don't know how you lay your heads down at night and what you think of before you drift off, but it must be okay with that dirty money pillow that you're laying on. And the city workers really need to stop hosing off the human feces into the bay, because it's disgusting. And some of you up there may think that you had a stalker, but what you had was somebody that called you out on lies. And everybody doesn't know that you lost, and you lost bad. And public comment is really important because we're the ones that pay the taxes. And I want to know how many of you, with a show of hands, actually support the people in Old Town for shops? Probably not. And what does Ferndale have that Old Town doesn't? Homeless people. I know I'd rather go to Ferndale than Old Town, which is sad. And I really hope that you take into consideration these people that are coming up before you, because you're the ones that they're going to vote for. And the way I look at it, you can't fix stupid, but you can vote them out.
Hello, thank you for your time. I'd like to start off by appreciating the officers for the month that we're having. Thank you guys. And not to beat on the same drum that we always beat on, but a lot of the things that we speak on would make their lives easier and potentially save their lives so they can get home to their families. I know that it's a hot topic with partisan politics to discuss certain aspects of law enforcement and public safety, but it is probably a partisan issue these days. I've seen some familiar faces in certain marches that goes against the grain for law enforcement, security, and safety, and I do not support endangering their lives because they're the ones we call when we need help. And I also think it's great that we're appreciating children. I just wish that you guys would take the effort to teach these kids what needles look like, because as a parent, I have to do it. It's great that they can do artwork. Let them get poked with a needle and see who has to deal with it. None of you guys, I bet. Maybe you guys live in areas that you don't have to worry about it, but we do. I have homeless people camping outside of my house. I'm grateful they're safe and have a place to be, but it doesn't make me or my kid any safer. And I have empathy for people that are homeless. I was homeless for 3 years. 3 years. I got out of it. I didn't have handouts. That's partially why I got out of it. It's because I had to. I didn't have anybody enabling me. When you encourage people to live that lifestyle, maybe not encourage is the right word, when you enable people to live that lifestyle, they lose motive. They lose incentive to get out of it and be contributing members of the society. The reason I got out of it is because I had nobody enabling me. And I knew I either had to do it myself, even if it takes 3 years or 5 years or 10 years. It took me 3. But I got out of it because I had motive, and I knew if I went down the wrong path, I was going to go to jail. Things have changed. They don't go to jail no more. And you know what that means? It endangers these officers' lives. It endangers the kids up here that are sitting here just trying to do some artwork. It endangers them. So I'm asking you guys to think about some of these policy decisions you guys are making, whether it's with the city or how you vote for the state or county, because it matters. I know a lot of people want to label all this kind of policy stuff as right-wing and da-da-da-da, whatever. Think of the kids. Think of these officers. Think of the community people that you guys are supposed to be leading for. You know, when I say I appreciate the officers, I mean it, because I vote to keep them safe. Do you guys? I know I'm not going to get an answer, but that's something to consider when you go to bed at night. You know, seriously, These kids, these officers in this community is in danger. And I really hope people start taking it serious, because we are, and the worse it gets, the more is going to show up. So as certain people get snarky, taking bait, we're taking the bait too. So I hope more people start showing up.
Well, Mayor, I appreciate that you tried to rectify that faux pas of last time. I saw 1, 2, 3, 4 of you guys in a courtroom not too long ago trying to oppress my First Amendment, and you lost. But that's a different issue. Try it again and you'll lose again. But yeah, First Amendment, speaking out. As the judge back then said, it's the most important and pressing issues of the community. ACE score, highest in the state. Second highest overdose rate. Last week, actually, in 3 different homeless camps, people overdosed within minutes after the dealers dropped off the fentanyl. The first was on Junitoli Lane, then on 255, and all the way up to Samoa. And it was within minutes that the dude dropped off the stuff, and they shot up, and they were dead in their tents, okay? So much about enabling and providing them with free needles. Free needles, keeping children safe, and free needles, doesn't go too well. In every household where there's an opioid addict and children, the needles are flying all over the place. And we read that frequently in Lost Coast Outpost when people get busted, that they endangered their children with leaving syringes everywhere. We had that same thing right here, a block down the road, that a junkie left his child in a car, went to the pawn shop, and in the car was heroin and syringes. And if Cass Bell wouldn't have been there, God knows what would have happened. It is, after all, about political accountability and being responsible for the political actions that you took, from Hatcher all the way to Aegis, from leaving us with the unsolved environmental catastrophe of millions and millions of needles in our environment, in our waterways. The police is getting endangered, the firemen are getting endangered, the fishermen getting endangered, tourists are getting endangered. By the way, I saw today 3 couples, so 6 people, coming off the ship. Plain disgust and disturbed expressions on their faces when they were walking through Old Town. I know personally from 3 businesses that will move out on 1 block alone in Old Town. That will be an entire other, 1 more entirely empty block of abandoned storefronts. And the funny thing is that Eureka is the only California coastal town in continuous economic decline, from Crescent City all the way down to San Diego, over Fort Bragg, you name it, Point Reyes, they're all doing well except for Eureka. Because Eureka became the mecca of the enablers and their entourage. And that is why we had almost 500,000, admitted by Hatcher, the only time they issued number, almost 500,000 needles given out in 6 months in a county of 162,000 people. And if you look where the overdoses happened, Junitoli Lane, 255, the trailer camp there, and then up 255, those are Hatcher places where they supply the needles. Thank you so much. Take accountability.
My name is Charles Wilson. On June 8th, 55 years ago, that's all of you were probably either not thought of or were still babies. The USS Liberty was loafing along at 5 knots off from the coast of Egypt and Israel, many miles offshore. Its purpose was to listen to all the stuff that was going on because they had the Israeli Egypt, they called it later the 6-Day War. So they were listening in. It's a surveillance ship. It's 450 feet long, essentially unarmed, had 1 machine gun on it. Okay. So anyway, Israel had made an agreement with Syria to have a truce, and but secretly they wanted to break that truce and grab the Golan Heights. Now the thing is, that means here the United States has got this surveillance ship offshore, and they're listening in so they can hear what's going on. Israel couldn't take that, so they sent out 3 torpedo boats and several airplanes to stop this ship from listening in. Now, the top speed of the USS Liberty was 18 knots. They were loafing along at 5 knots. The 2 torpedo boats separately documented that they were going at 30 knots. Now, 30 knots means that they were a warship. So that means we got to go out and kill them. So anyway, they went out there. They torpedoed the USS Liberty. They killed 34 U.S. seamen. 171 were injured out of the, I think it was 294 or something like that, total number of people. But anyway, the thing is, later on they sent out some, they called back the help twice, and essentially Johnson didn't give a damn whether they got sunk, and he didn't want to embarrass his allies. And you can't trust government, and this is why we feel that you can't trust government and a lot of this other stuff that they do now. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Genevieve Wilson. I was just going to say something. We really have to take care of environment. Well, thank you for the police officer saving us and all that. Because if you come to your own security, you will be thinking about it. I just come back from Schaefer. 3 doors. They only open 1 door on D Street. I said, what happened? He said, because people stole things. This is sad. How can people adore your open thing? Because they don't punish you unless you stole $3,000 or $2,000 and it's only a misdemeanor. Okay, I only had 3 minutes. Very important thing. Omicron is very contagious. So a lot of people are getting sick. So you get sick and then the doctor tell you to take a shot, please don't take the jab. Because immunology say if you take something like that when you're recovering on COVID, you're deadly. I talk to everybody. 2 people say that same thing. The doctor tells them to take the shot, they die in the same night. And there's papers say all the pregnant women should take the shot so that you won't have a miscarriage. There are 4,400 miscarriage from people who took the shot. A nurse, full-term baby, stillbirth. That's another reason. And so many people, like Stephen, his wife got hurt from taking the shot. And that's an important thing. You need to respect that. Put yourself in his shoes. Is it so sad that people doesn't have feeling? And children wearing a mask, you cannot even recognize the beautiful face, taking a picture right now, earlier. Why? The mask, if you can smell fart through it, it doesn't work. My point is, seriously, they call me pretty soon I'm a domestic terrorist. I'm a nurse, 5 years. I'm telling people all this because I care for people. I love them. That's why I'm telling you, stay away from the shot. If you want to take it, at least take 2 weeks after that. Harris Camera, the vice president, 4 immunization, 4 booster, whatever it is, she still get infected. You know why they tell you? Because you need the 5th one. Tell me why you don't need the 5th one, because you're not dead yet. Young men get sick, okay? Then old people want to take the shot, of course they die. And then you don't have to pay the Social Security, you balance the budget. And now I talked to 2 people, 2 young girls, 20 years old. They have ovarian cysts after they take the shot. So they'll be sterilized. A woman cannot have child. That's very sad. Mother's Day is coming up, okay? Please remember, if you all keep on doing that, you are part of the genocide. Okay, love and freedom, everyone desire, hate and tyranny, everyone despite. Heavenly love will be back in time if all the patriots united and combined. Think about yourself, your generation. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members.
I've come here so many times now, I'm literally running out of things to say. But first of all, I'd like to thank the police department. My grandfather was a police officer. I have 4 uncles who are police officers. I know the job they do. If we didn't have them, it would be worse than it is now. They're handcuffed. They can only do so much thanks to the legislature. The one subject I really do want to speak about is I was highly incensed and highly upset by the comment that was made at the closing of last meeting's open, basically public comment period. What we have to say is important. We live in this city. We live on these streets. We work. We go to stores. We have to step over the piles of human excrement. We have to step through and smell the urine on hot days. Okay? And for us to stick our heads in the sand, as I keep saying, this is Humboldt Bay, not the denial. You know? It's a little cutie, but it's how I think of it. And people have got to start understanding that it comes from you people. You're our leaders. Supposedly, there's things going on we don't know about. Well, then whose fault is that? It's your job to keep us informed. Let us know what's being done, how it's being done, so that when we come in here, we're well informed. There is no place. I've been barred from the webpage because I'm a little bit radical, a little bit of a hothead, and I know that. But I just had a conversation tonight with a member of this council. I like what was said. I like the fact that I felt I was listened to for maybe the first time. I've met with every member of this council except for one, okay? And I come with solutions, not just problems. I came with a clipboard of solutions, and I was ignored. And they're good solutions. They're workable. They're not expensive. They're things that can be done with money that is already out there. And for you people to say that what we're saying is not important makes us feel like you're not listening and we don't matter. So why should we get up off our butts and get out here and try to clean this stuff up when nobody feels like they're worthy? Well, I still continue in with my heart condition, 6 heart attacks and all that. I still get out there every day and pick up needles and litter and have to shovel, literally, poop. And I'm tired of it. Something's got to happen. People are going to start voting against you guys because they feel like you don't listen anyway. And I thank you for listening tonight.
I bet y'all are happy to see my smiling face again. I was going to start out on a rant about how you guys give away these frivolous awards to everybody in the world for everything that could possibly be done. And then you start out giving awards to cops and kids. You completely popped my balloon, cut my feet up from under me, stole my thunder. I mean, what can I say, you know? I mean, who can object to that? So anyways, thumbs up for that. But moving on to the important business. I got a phone call a couple weeks ago from a polling company wanting to ask questions about my opinion on some things in my community. And they started asking me questions, and at the beginning it sounded like they were asking questions about the Earth Center, because they kept talking about a development on the waterfront off of 101. But the questioning went on for about an hour, and it was pretty involved. By the end of the questioning, I had gathered that they weren't talking about the Earth Center. It had nothing to do with the Earth Center. They were talking about a 125-unit, 4-story, high-end development somewhere on the waterfront off of 101. There's only a couple of places that would support something like that. That would be the foot of C&D Street, Halverson Park, or the balloon track. The nature of the questioning led me to believe that this thing is fairly well along in the planning. And I'm thinking back to that parking assessment that y'all paid for, which I thought I was figuring, it must have been worth $30,000 or so. I heard you spent over $100,000, close to $150,000. on that parking assessment, which included everything from A to L and the waterfront to 7th, as if that was pertinent to the Old Town area. And it totally ignored the new development on 2nd and E, and there was nothing said about this new 125 unit development in Old Town. I don't know if you think we're stoned or stupid, but I quit smoking weed 40 years ago, and I kind of resent the implication that I'm stupid. How you could have possibly contracted with someone for $150,000 to do a parking assessment and completely left out any reference to either one of those two developments is beyond me. I think y'all have some answering to do.
Do we have any other public comment?
I have one person on Zoom.
Oh, okay. We have one in-house too.
I came here tonight to speak for myself, many businesses, and residents of Eureka because they are afraid of retaliation from their own elected officials. We, the people, are tired of you dismissing us and not listening. I have been attending your meetings for 4 years, and absolutely nothing has been done to preserve our business community and protect the citizens' safety from the out-of-control crime and addicts that wander our streets. You could enact directives and create policies, but you won't. The addicts and mentally ill that live in our business districts and green belts are not being helped by you. The only thing you have done is invite Hatcher into our community to give them needles to continue their addiction. You have an excellent grant writer. Why isn't she writing a grant to fund a shelter for them? Most of the homeless are not even from our area, but have been bussed in here. Just this weekend, I was walking to my property on 5th and G. A homeless man approached me and said, "I'm on edge and I'm going to kill you." This is the second time this has happened. They have created an encampment on your parking lot. I called the police and the city. The officer said this man is known to them and is extremely dangerous. This is your parking lot that is allowing this to happen. Across the street at the bank and Scrapper's Edge, they had their wiring cut in the alley. While I was at your last meeting, my upper window of Banana Hut was broken out. Are you waiting for someone to be killed before you do something? It really looks that way to all of us. You have money in your budget for public safety. Use it, because at election time, I'll guarantee we won't forget how your policies have endangered us and destroyed Eureka. Thank you.
All right, do we have anybody else in council chambers who would like to speak? Seeing none, we'll go to the
LaTanya Jacob, would you like to speak now?
Thank you for, my name is LaTanya Jacob, and I'd like to thank you for allowing me to speak tonight at tonight's city council meeting. I just wanted to stress that the businesses along the regional bus route be remembered this Saturday. I think this is the Saturday when they're having the letter carrier event. I just ask that they don't forget us. I just wanted to make a comment regarding the portable showers as being a homeless person. I think it's important to, I value the service. I think it's a good idea. I also ask that, this may seem trivial, but hot running water, electricity within the stalls, and if there's heat, I think that should be something that's considered. I'm just not a fan of portable showers. Just wanted to let you know that. I hope to see the people that came out to the meeting today. It sounds like at the event that will take place on Saturday. this upcoming event. And I do have other questions, but I will submit those questions and comments, and I will submit that in writing. Thank you.
Thank you, Latanya. It looks like she has hit 2 spots up there. Is there anybody else on Zoom? All right, seeing none, I will close public comment and I will move on to our agenda. The next item, which will be the consent calendar. I understand we wanted to pull item F2, which is the new classification, managing mental health clinician. So do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar without that item?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Arroyo. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Bauer. Please vote.
Aye.
Thank you, Councilmember Moulton.
Unanimous yes vote. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. And we have pulled item F2, which is the new classification, managing mental health clinician. And I'm trying to remember, was that, Director Folger. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Will Folger, Director of Human Resources. And I'm very excited to actually be able to speak about this new classification, this sort of groundbreaking classification of managing mental health clinician. As you know, in order to supplement APD's response to certain calls for service, mainly involving mental and behavioral health calls, the city has explored augmenting its already very successful programs such as Uplift and CSET by adding a mental and behavioral health response component to that response model. So this really is kind of our first step in that direction in building out that team, is establishing this classification, which will then be the managing partner in that mental health response component of the alternative response team, and will have a hand in crafting the other positions that come and how that response effort looks. And so I'm here for further questions. That's the very basic general gist of it. It is a very new classification. We have never had a mental health clinician or anything like that working for the city, but as with the many other endeavors we have taken recently in providing service to this diverse population that we serve, including our population that is experiencing homelessness and mental health crises, it's our, again, I think an added component to already very successful programs such as Uplift and CSET. So, and not just, I'm not the only one here to answer any questions. I also believe that Jeff Davis, who is our project manager with Uplift, and Sergeant LaFrance, who is the sergeant overseeing CSET, are both available via Zoom as well to answer programmatic questions.
All right. Did anybody have questions for any of those? Councilmember Castellano.
Just to begin, a real basic question in terms of timeline. You know, of course, like when do you think the position will be, available for application? And then, of course, once we hire someone, how long will it take to start implementing the program?
Sure. Great question. Well, provided that the classification is adopted and approved today, which I want to mention that it is just recently received full funding through Measure Z. So if that's the classification is adopted into our classification plan, then our hope is that we're going to get that recruitment started as soon as possible. And my understanding is that there are there's some buzz out there about the position among people who do this type of work. Our hope is that it will be very attractive to those folks and that it won't be a very lengthy recruitment in order to sort of solicit that interest and receive applications. In terms of when we're able to fill the position, the goal is to do so before the fiscal year, so by July 1st. That, of course, depends on our how successful our recruitment is. But we're all very, very optimistic about that. So I think that is a realistic timeline. As to when the program is fully implemented, that's a question better answered by Jeff and Sergeant LaFrance, because, as I said, this position will sort of be integral to building out that program. Once we get that person on board, we want to make sure we're availing ourselves of their expertise in the field. So
do you want to follow up with Sergeant LaFrance and all right. Hello, Sergeant LaFrance and Jeff Davis. I'm sorry, Davies. I don't know what to call you. I'm sorry. Do you want to follow up with that?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. This is the alternate response team. We're looking at a three and a half prong component. One prong is a mental health team within the city. One prong is a medical component. One prong is social or uplift, and the half prong is law enforcement. We recognize that law enforcement isn't always needed in these types of calls for service, or with people having bad days. We don't always need to be present, but we're not naive enough to say that we completely disregarded. And so for this managing clinician, this is the foundation for our mental health team, which looking forward, potentially has the opportunity to have about 4 total employees. But this is really the foundational piece we have to have per the W&I code in California.
Thank you. Jeff, do you have anything to add?
I think the only thing else I'd like to add is, as we're implementing this program, I think initially we're going to be before we're responding to calls, or before this position is responding to calls, we're going to be conducting quite a bit of outreach, progressive and preventative outreach. And so I think, and even when the response team is up and running, a majority of the time, I think we're going to be going out and doing preemptive outreach and helping folks before situations escalate to an emergency situation.
Thank you. Councilmember Royal.
Well, thank you so much for bringing this forward. This is a really exciting opportunity to talk about this. I want to just test my awareness of this, because based on what I'm reading, it looks like we are really just looking at a position that's going to oversee other staff that would also be responding to these kinds of calls, or going out and doing preventative work or preemptive work. Is that correct? Is the managing position going to be accompanied by other positions?
That is correct.
Okay.
So this position will be a field supervisor, field management style position. It will be a working manager, but the goal is, of course, to outfit that effort, the mental health response aspect of the alternative response team, with support staff as well, which would include at this stage, and this is kind of what we're just thinking, but this might change once we bring on the managing mental health clinician, another support clinician, regular mental health clinician at a lower level, and then a mental health response worker that is going to be sort of like a partner in support of that mental health clinician. And that's just to start. But Jeff and Lenny, please feel free to jump in with some of the more detailed information on that front if you'd like.
Yeah, so overall plans for the manager to really oversee the mental health team, provide expertise on managing this program, also obviously have some field work as well. Then the secondary clinician would be more the field clinician, preferably licensed so they can write holds if that was approved by DHHS, behavioral health, which seems very likely. And then the intervention worker would definitely be the primary position for them is to be inside the vehicle, doing proactive engagement, which is the majority of their job, but then also respond to calls with the medical component and then also the uplift component.
I'll also add that this position is additionally critical because these other positions that are going to be working underneath it, we're required to have a position of this level that's licensed at this level in order to actually perform these functions with the city. So that's also why it's coming first. And
then just to follow on to that question, so is there Measure Z funding just covering this managing position, or is the funding also available to encompass some of those other positions?
So I'll take that one. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So yes, for right now, that funding for this position from Measure Z is solely for this position, but we have a lot of access to other funds. We've been successful in getting funding for homeless outreach workers that are on the payroll right now, and we have every intention on continuing to seek funding to fill up those other lower level clinician positions. But just with this position, we still can run somewhat of a pilot program, especially for the preemptive work that's being done with the existing staff that we have now. We can utilize our homeless outreach workers, which have a very good rapport with our community members out there, especially those experiencing homelessness. And so we can utilize them for those lower level positions to start with and start seeking funding for growing out the program as it gets more better developed. That's horrible. Gets better, is developed more. That was really bad. My apologies. Mo better.
All right. Any other questions, Councilmember Bauer?
Yeah, I just want to thank you, Jeff, and Sergeant LaFrance and Will and city staff for making this happen. This is exactly what we need, to address a lot of the mental health crises that we see on the streets. So much appreciated. Look forward to figuring out the housing component, the facility component too, because I think that's going to be the next really, what's the word? That's a challenge, and at the county level and at the city level. And I know we're partnering with the county, but we've got to figure out that component next. To help you guys out, help you do your job, find places for people that are having a crisis. And I'm sure all of us here will be happy to help facilitate that. So thank you for your work. It's much appreciated.
And just so council knows, it's Project Coordinator Davis.
Project Coordinator, thank you. There are so many people and so many different titles that but to me you'll be Jeff, because we know each other well, and that's the point, right? Are we done with the question part of this? I see we do have a public comment, so we'll go ahead and take public comment at this time. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, LaTanya.
Thank you.
Okay. I just had a couple of questions about as a homeless person and utilizing the services that was offered or that is offered. And I want to know, are you going to this position, the person or whoever, are they going to address like billing? I really think it's so vital to help me who being homeless and want to remain independent, being able to pay my bills, to know just exactly what is involved in the bills that I receive for the services. I mean, if I'm getting an ambulance ride, I understand it's going to be a lot of money, but when you see something that comes through that says $1,900, I have to ask, can you please give me specifics, like what's involved in that amount? It's also treatment services. This is important. It's so important to know just what's involved in treatment. I mean, we think of medication, but that would be a separate bill. But like, what is the treatment? Is there something in the environment that's being done? Or, just it's important to identify, and that billing for all mental health services be clear and easy to understand. Thank you.
Thank you, LaTanya. I also have problems reading those bills. Councilmember Burgell.
It's comments, right?
Yes, now it's comments.
So I just wanted to thank you, Sergeant LaFrance. Where are you at? I can't see you. That's okay. For always being willing to take and look at innovative approaches to what we're doing. you're a gem to our city, and I really appreciate, you're really an asset to everything that we do, and I really appreciate that. And your dedication to what we do is just, it's phenomenal. It needs to be recognized. And then Jazzy Jeff, that's how I know him. One of my high school students calls him Jazzy Jeff, but we'll just call him Project Coordinator Davis. Thank you too. Again, it's people like you and the dedication that you have to making these things and bringing them forward that makes our community better. And I think it's really important. I don't think you're recognized enough. And I think that, you walk through a lot of stuff that's really difficult. And it's really important that you're, that you get some, some cred for it. So with that, I'm really looking forward to this new program. I think it's going to be a great asset and a great tool for our toolbox. And our toolbox needs a lot of tools. There's not one tool that's going to make that happen. And of course, thank you, Will, for putting it all together. So with that, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt resolution adding new classification managing mental health clinician to the city's classification and compensation plan and allocating one FTE managing mental health clinician to the city manager's office.
And
a second.
Thank you. Discussion. Yes. Councilmember Castellano, then Councilmember Arroyo.
And yeah, I definitely appreciate everyone who's been working so hard on this. And I just wanted to follow up with Ms. Jacobs' question real quick. This service that we're talking about will be free for people who might receive the service. Am I correct?
That is, I believe, correct. Yes, just like all of our other response people out there, police services, Uplift, our HOW workers, when they respond on the scene, they're not handing anyone a bill. They're there to provide support, and that's what these mental health clinician positions will be doing as well.
Great, thank you. And so, and I think that's something just important to note, that often, and I appreciate, Ms. Jacobs, that you spoke to the fact that sometimes you receive services and you don't know what the bill is going to be afterward, and that can be kind of a scary thing when you need support or you need help, and you're also concerned about getting charged at the end, and so I do appreciate that we're offering these services for the community, for the betterment of the community, and really to create more opportunities for support and stability for people throughout the community, and hopefully a connecting point where people can access other services. And just to speak real quick to, the program, the Uplift program, and there are, and I know we've had our co-pilots program on hold for a while, but that program does help people with financial management and those kinds of services as well. So there may be opportunities to receive other supports related to that. So I am very excited for this, and I think it really fits in with the overall vision and complexity and layers of services that we're providing.
Thank you. Councilmember Arroyo.
Well, again, appreciation for all of this and moving it forward and finding both an appropriate, classification structure for this new position and, the work put into really fleshing out the duties, but also to staff for securing Measure Z funds. And thank you to the county and the Measure Z committee for prioritizing this. That's huge and really important for us. And I also just want to acknowledge, City Manager Slattery and our former chief, Steve Watson, who met with myself and Councilmember Castellano a year and a half, 2 years ago almost, to talk about this idea, and was really receptive to it. And I really appreciated that level of receptivity was there, and that the staff of the Eureka Police Department have continued to support this concept. And I think it's really a win-win for you all, hopefully in your department, especially as we hopefully have more staff to send with the person, so it's not just a one-person show. I mean, that was my concern, was not wanting to place all of this on the shoulders of one person and making sure they have a team. And given that, we've been in a financially pretty solid place, better than in the past. I know it's not what we're talking about on the agenda tonight, but I think it's a high enough priority that I'm certainly willing to have another discussion about allocating funds to make sure that we have those additional positions as well. So that's really a team approach. And, I think we've made it clear through our strategic visioning and all our discussions that this has been a really high priority. So if that needs to come back, I welcome it. And I just want to, appreciate everyone for thinking about doing things differently and staffing. We don't have a Department of Health and Human Services in the city of Eureka, and we've sort of created some legs of that on our own. And between Uplift, between EPD and the additional training that folks have gotten and all the work that you have to do, that's really Health and Human Services work day in, day out, as well as Humboldt Bay Fire. I really appreciate that we're trying to find ways to meet those needs within our city with a department that we aren't, statutorily required to have and funded to have. So it requires a lot of creativity. So if anyone's watching out there and kind of, seeing this all unfold, I think it's really huge for us. So kudos to everyone.
Excellent. Before we complete the vote, I just want to make sure there's no further discussion on this item. If not, I will share everybody's appreciation for all the great work and across the departments. It's one of the things I really like about this city too, is that you guys all work together so well. So everybody vote.
Enthusiastic aye.
Unanimous yes vote, motion carries.
All right. So we are going to move on to item G, legislative action correspondence. Does anybody have anything we need to get written this week? I understand that was going to be on the next agenda for the agenda items, possibly.
I thought the meeting was coming up and we had to.
That can be brought up during this. That meeting that is a part of that letter is not till May 19th, and so we can bring something back on May 17th if that's what council wants.
So, but we can have a brief discussion now? Or should we wait?
We can have a discussion about the item?
No, not a discussion about the item,
Yeah, we could either
Council
talk about
reports.
writing a letter now, or we could talk about putting it on the agenda
Okay.
in the future.
So I wonder if we need to put it on the agenda and have more conversation about it, or if we just need to write it. I think it would be good. I think maybe we should have it on the agenda because I think the public really needs to have this fleshed out and understand what it is. It's a 30-day notice of proposal to implement developer fees from the Eureka City schools. It's going to have a lot of impacts on our builders. And so if there's a way that we can have that conversation and get our opinion out there, that would be very helpful, whatever way that works. I just think the public needs to be aware, hugely.
So in that, there are no letters. We'll just move future agenda items up right now, and we'll put that on it.
That's what I was going to say.
So I'll just move that
future
agenda
agenda
item.
items would be a good time to talk about it.
Okay. And since we are on future agenda items, is there anything else we wanted to add to that? If not, all right, we will look forward to seeing that. And I am glad that that was brought up. It was on my notes as well. So, Councilmember Castellano, did you have something? You have that face like, I want to say something.
I think I do want to add this to a future agenda item if it's not too late. It's really just a presentation, and at our Wabash cleanup on Saturday, Robin Prasker connected with the TRIO program at Cal Poly Humboldt, which is a program that serves kind of students in our community who are in high school, whose parents haven't been to college and are kind of preparing to go to college. And I didn't know about this program. Anyway, I think it would be really great to have them do a presentation about it at council if other people were interested.
Yes.
It's an awesome program. I'd be totally into
It's a good program. And I also like to see, I was planning to put on the agenda, what is it called? It's the Humboldt IPA has the collaborative health efforts across to bring supportive services. What is it called? Sorry, I don't usually bring the agenda items to you guys. I just take them to Miles, and I thought I should bring them to you. That's it, North Coast Health Initiative. They've been doing some really incredibly interesting stuff with sharing data. And I would really like to hear from them because it's kind of complicated and incredibly impressive what they're getting done. So I will reach out to them if you're interested in that. So TRIO and then the IPA, the Health Initiative. All right. So that is future agenda items. We're going to go back now up to I, which is reports and action items. And we're going to have the Zero Waste Action Plan update. Would that be Robin Prasker, I'm guessing? There you go. There. I see Sierra up there as well. Okay, right on. Go ahead.
Wonderful. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am going to go ahead and share my screen and hope that it shares the correct screen. So let's see. Okay, are you seeing the first slide?
We are.
Perfect. All right. My name is Robin Prasker with the Eureka Community Services Department, and tonight I am bringing a report on the Zero Waste Action Plan focused specifically on construction and demolition waste. As a quick recap, zero waste is a shift in waste management from a linear to a circular economy where we can recover all of our resources and send nothing to the landfill. Getting there takes everybody. It's a community effort, and some changes do need to come at the state, national level, even within the manufacturing industry itself. But we as government have a responsibility, as well as each and every one of our community members. We're in this together. For a recap of our planning process, we are guiding each section by stakeholder groups, with tonight being construction and demolition, and the other sections coming afterwards. So construction and demolition waste. They are debris generated during construction, renovation, and demolition of buildings, roads, bridges, and more. And the materials are often bulky and heavy and often include concrete, wood, asphalt, gypsum, metals, bricks, glass, plastics, salvage building materials, and organics like trees, stumps, soil, and all that. The EPA tells us that 600 million tons of C&D debris were generated in the US in 2018, which is more than 2 times the amount of municipal solid waste. And we know there's many benefits to reducing the disposal of these materials in the landfill. We can preserve the landfill space, as well as preserve our disposal facilities footprint. We can lessen our building expenses by avoiding purchasing new items and lessening our disposal costs since we're sending less to the landfill. And we can preserve the extraction and consumption of virgin resources. And then the bonus of economic growth within a recycling and reuse industry that could come to the region. Within Eureka, we have over 700 business licenses that are categorized as contractor, handyman, and services. So we're talking about a big industry here that is vital to our community, but also has an impact on our city's waste diversion goals. For data, we've been using the 2021 Humboldt County Waste Characterization Study. It's done about every 10 years, and it helps us understand what is in the garbage. Within the C&D section of the latest study, we found that 73% of materials categorized as C&D that are thrown in the landfill are considered potentially recoverable. And what that means is that materials that have recycling technologies, programs, and markets, but are either not well developed or are not being used for whatever reason. Within those C&D materials, our top 3 materials that could be recovered but are not happening right now or not in the capacity that we want is asphalt composition shingles, other wood waste, and clean pallets and crates. After understanding the waste characterization, we jumped into our research and outreach, getting boots on the ground and speaking with people. We met with all city staff who oversee any element of construction-related projects in their official capacity. That's public works, engineering, planning, and building. Along with the Humboldt Builders Exchange, through a board member, we were assisted in engaging them. And just last week, they discussed this zero waste project and did show interest in receiving more information about this planning process in order to better engage the industry to be part of the development of this plan with us. So there's still more engagement to be done. We also turned to state and national research, finding out best practices, innovations in the industry that we could learn from and bring here. We also launched a survey directed at the construction industry. We promoted it in all of our channels and it remains open still today. We're going to go ahead and keep it open to get as much input as we can. Local tours were fascinating and very important to our process. We toured Alves Inc., Mercer Fraser Company, HWMA, and Kernan Construction. Understanding the operations of these facilities, their recycling capabilities, their challenges, their goals have all proved to be essential in formulating our overall conclusions about what we found in the C&D debris stream and what we think we could do better. Many of our notable findings that are on the next slide are a direct result of these one-on-one interviews and tours. So we just thank everyone who opened their doors to us and were so welcoming, friendly, and forthcoming. Some of our notable findings include transportation challenges. While we do have quite a few different C&D recycling centers, they are scattered around the county. And for a contractor to not only separate those materials, but transport them from either end of the county probably isn't the best incentive to do that diversion work. Asphalt shingles, as we saw, those were the #1 item on the potentially recoverable list. And through our research, we learned that they can be used as aggregate in road base, but the state does not have any specifications for that formula. So that can be challenging for public works projects because they're going to go with what has a state standard behind it. And then the existing locations recycling the asphalt shingles locally certainly have capacity limits, and they by no means could serve the whole region. We also discovered that rubber is used in asphalt paving projects, and the state is actually requiring it in state projects. But the shredded rubber is imported while we are exporting tires to be recycled. So we see an opportunity there to create a closed loop of tires within the county. We did find there was little recognition or celebration of all the diversion activities going on. All of our tours showed that there's a lot going right, and we really want to help celebrate that and get the word out and show that these model businesses, other people could do similar activities and get that recognition and contribute to our city's goals. The #1 thing we heard from folks was treated wood waste, treated wood waste. It's difficult to recycle, it's difficult to reuse due to its toxicity, and it's hard to dispose of. We don't quite know all the answers to treated wood waste, but we know it's a problem. Education. We do believe more education could occur at the city's building and permitting counter and even at HWMA itself. Making the information easy and accessible is the best way to get folks to choose that option instead of landfilling. Next, we're going to go into our suggested action items that have been concluded out of this process. We do have them divided into 3 sort of timelines, short term being those that are easy and require the least amount of resources to accomplish. We've got midterm, which needs some substantial time and partnerships to foster such changes. And then we have our long term, which will be the biggest feats, including working regionally, potentially talking about infrastructure, large funding. So we do have those longer to be able to hash out all of those different moving parts. So on this slide are our suggested short-term action items. They are condensed for brevity. So our first one is a waste management plan for all building and demolition permits. This is in fact required by the state through the Calgary Building Code. So we want to work with our permitting division to create a form that will work good for the city and for contractors. Segueing into a similar topic, which is educational materials about the Calgary Building Code and a resource list for reuse and recycling, so that when we're reaching folks in the permitting process to permit a construction project, we're already hand feeding them all the information they need to know their options for disposal. A recognition program to highlight construction businesses for successfully diverting waste, highlighting folks who can show and lead by example is a really great way to foster change in others. We're interested in if it's possible to locally process tires for recycling so that then they can go into the local road paving projects. And then we also would like to advocate to the state to develop metrics for asphalt within the road base, similar to how the state currently has metrics for rubber in asphalt paving. We really like them to do the same for asphalt so that we can then go ahead and create asphalt shingle specifications to feed into programs to be able to use that in our local roads and expand the use of them and have folks trust that they know that it is a quality product backed by the state. Midterm includes new markets for expanding recycling and reuse of C&D materials. We've got a lot of great local businesses who are providing those services, but they don't necessarily have the capacity to serve our region if we were to increase the recycling of these materials. Technical assistance during the permitting process. If there was someone available to provide extra answers and questions about anything to do with waste diversion in construction, we'd love to be able to provide that service. The city does a lot of large public works projects, and if there was a way that we could work into the bid packet that reuse and recycling through the project could get higher points or have some sort of heightened recognition for award, would help then the city itself prioritize projects with diversion. And then funding. You know, we as Eureka can't do it alone. Seeking state and federal funding to support potential infrastructure we need to divert more C&D materials would be a very big goal for us to follow. Okay, moving on to our long-term. A C&D material recycling or reuse center. This would specifically be geared towards items that might come out of a construction project, things like doors, cabinetry, wood. A lot of our local thrift stores are fantastic, but they're certainly focused on household goods, and we don't really have a one-stop shop for all of those building salvage type materials. You do see those in some more urban areas like in the Bay Area, and we would love to make a goal to get one here within the next 5 to 10 years, however we might make that happen. Next, we have franchise hauling services for C&D recycling. We have found that the transport is difficult for the materials if we want to recycle them, and if there's a way we could make some sort of centralized service that made it easier and more accessible, we might see increased diversion from contractors. And then lastly, a waste diversion certification training program. It would be really cool if we could partner with potentially other local agencies and institutions and hold some sort of training program maybe annually to help foster the growth and interest and education of what we can do for waste diversion in C&D projects. So that leads us to our almost ending. So I did want to recap that, again, we are focused on C&D tonight, and our overall philosophy has really been to make disposal easier for the industry while meeting our city's waste reduction goals. We don't want to put extra burden or extra work on the industry itself. We're more looking to provide ample, accessible, and affordable diversion options to make it easy for contractors to make the right choice. So for what's next, as mentioned, we are going to be bringing the plan, reporting the plan in sections. And what our hope was that bringing it in bite-sized pieces would provide for more thoughtful discussion on each topic, as to not dump a large comprehensive document on you all at once. So by bringing you a section at a time for feedback, we're hoping we can gauge if we're going in the right direction and catch your feedback and the community's feedback in the development process. Then, of course, when a draft is available, it will all be familiar to you and will be sort of like a working document we've been building on together. So therefore, there's no approval being sought tonight, really just feedback and questions. And up on the screen is the order of the coming topics, with the first draft set to be finished around August or September of this year. So before I open for questions, I did just want to tap Sierra in here real quick. She's been instrumental to this process. You would not have this report tonight without all of her efforts she's been helping with. So I want to just welcome her to add a few thoughts as soon as I stop share. Perfect. Okay.
Thank you, Robin. Great job. Hi, City Council. I am Sierra Dillon, Community Services Coordinator, working with Robin on the city's Zero Waste Action Plan. I would like to say that through this process, we have realized that there are a lot of areas for improvement, both environmentally and economically, which is great. And that we're very hopeful knowing that a good percentage of these C&D materials currently going to the landfill are recoverable. And knowing that most local businesses do try to recycle C&D materials where there's the opportunity to do so. I'd like to give a shout out and a thank you to all of the local businesses and HWMA who let Robin and myself come and tour your business sites and ask you a million questions. You're all currently doing a great job with your C&D recycling efforts. So thank you. And we look forward to working with the C&D industry in the future. So if you're in the industry, please go to gozeroeureka.org to find a link and take the survey, which is still up because your feedback is important to us. So that's gozeroeureka.org. Thank you.
Thank you. That was just a really exciting report. I didn't expect to be, I just was really excited by it. So good job. And I don't know how every time we have a meeting, Robin comes and talks about something totally different that she's working on. So you're everywhere doing a lot of good stuff. Thank you. Does anybody have questions on this item? Councilmember Bauer.
A great presentation. Thank you. And it's exciting. It just seems like it's such a, something that we've got to do and we, have to do. And that brings me to the question of is there a state mandate as a timeline? Like when do we have to reach, basically zero waste? Is there looking for a timeline as to what we're shooting for to get this done?
That's a great question. So the Zero Waste Action Plan itself was actually tasked by City Council, I believe in about 2017. So it is a self-imposed project by the city, recognizing that as the city, we're responsible for waste management. So it's in our best interest and our community's best interest to reduce our waste as much as possible, to reduce the burden on those programs. And of course, it's the right thing to do environmentally. Though I will note that SB 1383 is a topic that you've probably heard. I believe we did an update on it before. That is a state mandated law that has to do with organics recycling and food recovery, edible food recovery. So that is a state mandate. So I wouldn't be surprised if some lines have been blurred with all the waste topics we're working on. But the Zero Waste Action Plan itself is not mandated, though the state is taking a lot of actions in waste reduction. So I wouldn't be surprised in the years to come if the state does take more action on this topic. So we'll probably be ahead of the curve.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yay, Team Eureka. Councilmember Castellano.
This is a report, so are we doing questions and comments or just...
You know what? We'll do questions and comments because it looks like we have a public comment on this item. So
okay.
So we'll do questions and then we'll come back for comments.
Okay. I don't think I have questions right now. Okay.
Councilmember Arroyo.
I'm sorry if you mentioned this and I was spacing out. It was very interesting, but anyway, I wanted to see about the possibility of using shredded rubber for playground surfacing. Is that something we can do? What are the opportunities there?
That's a very interesting question. As our department also oversees parks, we are usually up to date in the industry practices. We do see a lot of playground manufacturers selling products made from recycled materials, though I see more the question of could we innovate some sort of product ourselves? That is a new one to me. So we will take a note and look into that as we continue to develop this. That is a very out of the box idea.
So I think I can add to that. There's been hesitancy for using rubber tires, both not only on playgrounds but also on turf fields because of the carcinogen factor. And so that has been always a concern. There would also be, a lot of our playgrounds, as community services can attest, we're looking at being inclusive. So the surfacing that we're really trying to concentrate on is recycled materials for those surfaces that can also be ADA accessible. But I think that the biggest thing that came out of this, from my perspective, is I was in Robin's position before this. She does a much better job than I ever did, but is the recycled tires to be used for local road projects. We did something similar to that by taking our recycled glass and putting that in for their road base, but being able to close the loop for those tires. HWMA spent at least the 10 years that I was working on this on the tire amnesty program, and I think having that not needing grant funding and allowing community members to bring their tires in and have a source to put that into for road base would be a huge win-win for our community, because when we do cleanups in green belts, tires are a big component of that, and they're actually considered to be a hazardous waste, and we can't dispose of them. So I think that's a good option to use at least definitely for our local tires.
All right. Any other questions before I go to public comment? If not, we will go ahead and go to you, LaTanya.
I thank you for taking my questions, and I wanted to thank Robin Frazier for her presentation. I thought it was a very good presentation. Thank you. I just want to make sure I understand a couple of things. You talked about C&D recycling, right? I just wanted to know, is this place or this recycling a franchise hauling service? And if so, where is the parent company? Did I misunderstand that? And then also you mentioned when you put at the beginning about business licenses. Maybe I missed what you said. I just thought of something that I read in the paper. It talked about fictitious lists. It may list the business with a fictitious business name. It specifically says that. So I'm wondering, what does that mean? And were you going with the business license to recycle a business name or something? So I'm just wondering, what did you? I must have missed it. What did you mean by business licenses? And I want to clarify that GoZeroEureka.org, www.GoZeroEureka.org is where I need to go if I have any further questions or want to make or comments or give feedback about this initiative.
Thank you very much.
We do have one more public speaker, SW.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
Oh, wow. Okay, just very briefly, what an impressive presentation. And I'm sure there are people thinking the same thing that I am, that, I think it's our mission to be trailblazers. And I couldn't help but think that if some of the kinetic spirit could be, applied to some of the materials that come off, that are being recycled, and that whatever's built could be very creative, and and that then it could be a tourist attraction, because it sounds like some of the things that people do with recycled materials are just beyond our imaginations, and yet they teach us something. So I just applaud all that you're doing. And Tanya, I think your questions have been terrific. I really appreciate your input. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. I will bring it back for comments. Before we do, I just wanted to ask one thing regarding LaTanya's questions. Do you have a contact information place on your website? Is there a place to get more or to reach out to somebody?
Yes, GoZeroEureka.org. LaTanya had it correct. We do have a contact submission form on there, so we welcome any and all comments. If anybody thinks they have anything valuable, we'd love to set up a meeting. We have just been immersing ourselves in the folks who know this topic best so that we can learn from them.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Arroyo.
Hi, I want to talk about mulch again. So I definitely have explored rubber mulch, which is recycled from tires, as an alternative material for playgrounds that I have worked on in my other capacities, not for the city of Eureka. And it is generally expensive. And if you can make your own, it's kind of cool. But, and I don't know what our capacity would be to do that. But if we're talking about potentially grinding up tires to make road base, then maybe the capacity would potentially be there to shred, mulch, or make tire crumb for synthetic turfs. So the exposure considerations are twofold. One is that it leaches into groundwater, but you can mitigate that by putting something under it that's impermeable. And that's typically what approaches are for some turf fields. Then there has to be drainage, but there's like something that prevents it from going into the, some liner material. So, I mean, there's some drainage off the field or the play surface no matter what, but the EPA has looked at it kind of a lot. So it might be worth looking at their research into they call it tire crumb, which is that stuff used under the turf fields and then shredded rubber mulch for playgrounds. So the exposure of kids or anyone playing on a turf field or in a playground is fairly limited. I mean, they could put it in their mouth, but you're not like laying with your face in the rubber for long periods of time. So I think it's just like a time exposure factor. So anyway, they it's something to consider. I'm not advocating for it necessarily. I think I'd need to learn more also. But it would be a cool thing to be able to do in a rural area where we sure have a heck of a lot of tires to deal with. So it's definitely something that's been explored and that's very popular other places.
Thank you. Councilmember Castellano.
Thank you for this report. I'm so excited that the zero waste efforts are moving forward, and I can't wait for more. That being said, as I think y'all know, I'm the chair for the board for HWMA, and I did reach out to or at the last HWMA meeting, just so folks know, we did ask that Director Fuller include zero waste within his position goals for the upcoming year. And so I did reach out to him specifically just to kind of let him know this item was on the agenda, but also whether he would be willing to partner with the city for education efforts like a bulletin board or something like that. And he said he's definitely supportive of exploring that idea. And I really think that I'm just curious if the Clean California funding, I know that like one round of funding's already gone out, but in terms of, if tires are a waste item that we find and, Caltrans makes a lot of roads. So, so if maybe they might be a good partner for exploring that idea further, just in terms of actually funding the project and maybe overseeing it or developing, the shredder or whatever that is. Anyway, I feel like that could be something to explore. And then one other thing, I'm pretty sure I know we're in the process of kind of changing how we file our business licenses and things, and that I'm imagining that that's very impressive that we have 700 business licenses for, LaTanya, C&D isn't a company, it's construction and demolition. It's an abbreviation, but that we have 700 business licenses for those related fields. So it seems like there could potentially also be outreach to those folks as I think we're starting to collect emails now when we do business licenses. And yeah, just thank you. This is great.
Excellent. And I see Councilmember Moulton has her hand up.
Just a few quick comments. I just wanted to highlight a couple things. First, thank you for breaking this into bite-sized presentations. That definitely helps with engagement and attention span. Thank you also for focusing on closing those loops locally. I think that the transportation footprint of recycling is often overlooked. Of course, keeping useful things out of the landfill is a personal passion of mine, so I'm appreciating this. And also, thank you for looking specifically at the guidelines component. When you're talking about large projects, having that in place can be remove a lot of roadblocks. So just to highlight those specific things that I really appreciate about not just the presentation, but the work you're doing. Good job. Thank you.
All right. I don't know if that was the direction that you were looking for, but you definitely got a big good job from the council. So you're heading the right direction no matter what. So
Thank you.
you're welcome. All right, we'll go ahead and close that item, and I am going to go back to the agenda. And I believe we are to city manager reports.
Yes, we are. Good evening again, Mayor and Council. I do have a presentation on the strategic visioning process that we went through a couple of weeks ago, or maybe 3 weeks ago. But before I do that, I did want to mention that this upcoming Friday, we are going to be hosting the League of Cities Redwood Division up here at the city of Eureka, and we are going to be holding their division meetings at the Wharfinger at 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock on Friday. And then after that, there will be a showing off time at Redwood Skywalk for those in attendance, and a meal after that. So hopefully we get a lot of people coming up here so we can show off the city. So that'll be nice. So I'm going to go through our strategic visioning process that we went through this year. As we discussed previously, we made the decision to go forward with every 2 years doing a more comprehensive projects, and those interim years kind of brushing up on areas that didn't quite meet expectations and figuring out how we can accomplish those tasks before the end of the 2-year period. The idea being that council will be sitting complete and whole for 2 years, and then during that second year, when we get a potential new council on, we can revisit. So we stuck with the same goals and initiatives. We just looked at those goals and initiatives and narrowed it down to 3 areas of concern, and within those 3 areas of concern, highlighted 3 priority areas on that we wanted to concentrate on. So one of the first areas of concern was related to housing and homelessness, and working on that. The 3 priority areas that came out of that was the Homeless Action Plan, an owner-occupied property improvement program, and the vacancy ordinance or incentives to address some of the vacancies in both the commercial and residential areas. So as far as the Homeless Action Plan, we talked with staff that is being taken to the HHHC, the Housing Humboldt Homeless Coalition, as well as the Homeless Leadership Group. We're getting feedback from them. The county is also currently working on a it's now required by the state in order for them to receive certain funding that they have an action plan in place, and just so happens that ours was already completed, and so we have reviewed our plan with a consultant and gotten their feedback, and so that's going to come to you guys in June, likely the first meeting in June, for consideration by you guys and for feedback on that. The owner-occupied property improvement program, we had discussed previously the permanent local housing allocation that we get from HCD, the Housing Community Development with the state. We are earmarked non-competitive monies for that, and so I had our housing coordinator, Chris Raymond, reach out to them. We are going to be looking at taking some of that non-competitive money in 2023 and develop an owner-occupied improvement program in 2023. So that should be funded through another source. And then as far as the vacancy incentives are fine, I talked to Director Gerving. That will be presented to council likely in the second meeting in June, if not the first meeting in July. That's not the 4th of July, is it, Assistant City Manager Powell? It's July?
No.
Okay. So one of those 2 meetings.
The first meeting in July is July 5th.
Okay. So it'll be after 4th. The next area that council and department head staff looked at was staffing. Clearly, it's an issue not only here at the city of Eureka, but everywhere. But the three main areas that we were looking at was to maintain staffing levels, make sure that we have adequate number of staff, and then also to support through benefits and wages and our administration, our staff, and then also workplace culture. As far as the maintaining staffing levels, EPD is really hurting right now, as other law enforcement agencies are. Chief Jarvis has established a work group to look at not only recruitment but also retention. We actually met today. He's put together a work group that consists of EPOA members and management staff to look at this more directly, and we've come up with a lot of creative ideas. Some of those things may or may not come to council, but you'll definitely see them out and about when we're trying to recruit for that. And then, of course, HR continues to work on our other departments and to maintain our staffing levels. As far as the adequate number of staff, I think we've done a good job getting the positions allocated. I think we're in a good spot. It's a matter of filling them. As programs evolve, like the alternative response program, we will be coming back to staff, to council, to potentially look at additional members in those areas where needed. But right now, I think if fully staffed, I think we do have an adequate number of staff right now. And as far as support and benefits and wages, we have discussed this preliminary during the fiscal year budget. Some of the things that we've discussed in the EPD work group will be coming back to council for consideration for enhancing our benefits and wages. Obviously, the free childcare that we spoke of will be coming back. We're looking at memberships for the zoo. We're potentially looking at well-being stipends. So we'll be bringing that back to council during the budget review, which will be we'll probably bring it to the special study session on May 24th that we establish, which is May 24th at 5 o'clock, correct? And then the last area was public engagement and the perception of the city and relationships that we have. The first priority was public engagement policy and procedure for staff. We are going to be working with our marketing firm, Eddie Alexander, on weekly media posts that would be kind of a podcast type version, similar to what the mayor was doing during COVID, and start working on that. We're also looking at working with them on combining all of our social media channels into one location so that it's a one-stop shop. Right now, we really have way too many social media throughout the city, and we're going to concentrate it on one. EPD will probably still maintain theirs, but we'll have a citywide one that has more of a direct route. We're going to continue to table at events, and also when we have public events. Now, well, hopefully, COVID continues to lessen, and as we get further and we have more public meetings, we'll be having food at those events and provide childcare and those type of things to get as much participation at those events. We're currently developing permit checklists and development services in both planning and building to make that process a lot easier. And then, of course, HSU came here recently, and they currently have a survey out for the community to talk about their perception of the city of Eureka and how we can make improvements. And so we'll use that information to help improve the city operations. And then also, when we do have public meetings, we want to extend the length, give more heads up about those issues, and then also extend the range for the public outreach. And so we'll be doing that, hopefully, not only through the new social media and making it as a one-stop shop, but also through extending the mailers and the outreach that we send out for meetings. That's not necessarily a requirement like a public hearing, but do it more so based on the issue and try and concentrate on either locations or stakeholders that are interested in that and get information to them early. So that's all I have. And if you guys have any questions or concerns, I'm here to discuss.
I have concerns, and I'm just kidding. Councilmember Arroyo.
just have a question about something we discussed that I'm wondering, how it fits into this, or whether staff felt like there were other priorities that were greater. But I thought we talked a little bit about like a civic engagement guide or something like that for people as part of our public outreach and education. Did that make it into the list?
So we kind of combine that into the policy and procedures part of that.
Okay.
And we do currently have that with our Empower Eureka program. And I think it's a matter of just notifying people of that. It's a program that we talk about, give your time, your voice, or your donation type of thing. And so I think we plan on expanding that and try and get more information out about that, to where the different committees are and what they do and when they meet and how you can provide input that way.
I think we also talked about during the training for committees and commissions, we would open that up to the public and just make that kind of a government 101 is what we've talked about in the past. So I'm looking at, she's sort of nodding like, yeah, I think I said that. Okay.
Yes, and I believe I think we want to bring the Roberts or Rosenberg Rules of Order is part of that community, that like governance book on what to expect in a meeting and governance and those kind of things. I don't know if that answers your question.
Any other questions or comments for City Manager Slattery? All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll move on to our city, our councilor reports, and we'll start with Councilmember Moulton.
I'm going to pass on my report for right now. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Do you want me to come back to you at the end, or just
No,
today?
I mean, I don't have anything to talk about right now.
Okay, that's perfectly fine. Councilmember Burgell.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I actually have a few things to talk about. First of all, I just want to let folks know that John McManus, the director of Waterfront Recovery Services, passed away this week. It's a great, great loss for our community. You know, John was a visionary, and I want to just talk about just a moment about him, about how, you know, we talk about, I heard tonight in public comment about the junkies and the addicts and these people that are just worthless to our society. Well, John was clean a long time. Excuse me. John was clean over 20 years, and he took that and turned it into something beneficial to our whole community. People can recover, and people do get help, and people do great things. And he was an amazing guitarist, heart. There was just so much good about him, and he's going to be deeply missed by our community. We don't get a lot of people like him, and I really feel blessed that I got to know him, and well, I knew him for a really long time on many levels, and I just wanted to say that, you know, he was definitely, I think it's just really important to acknowledge people like that. That man was a gift to our community, and I just want people to be aware of that. He created Waterfront Recovery. He got through the task of, or the reality of drug Medi-Cal, which is a nightmare and took him forever, and he just did not give up. And, you know, one of the things that I always appreciated about him is that he saw people, he valued people. He could see them, not what they looked like, not what they were doing, but he could see them. And he really advocated for beauty. You know, when he was working with folks, he was a alcohol care and drug services as well. And, you know, when he created housing for people, he didn't create some moldy, rundown, crappy place. What he created was a place of beauty with new furniture. He created a playground at Serenity Inn for the kids. He wanted people to realize that they're valued and that they could enjoy beautiful things and that they could live a different life. And so he will forever live with me, and he will forever have impacts on my life. So I just felt compelled to talk about him. His service is going to be on Friday, so I won't be at any of the League of Cities things. I'll be at his service. So I just wanted to say that. And then on a happier note, it's just so sad. But on a happier note, I did get to be a judge at the Rhododendron Parade for the mayor. She was, I got to be mayor pro tem, and I got to judge the most original, and it was so, the mayor would have been proud. Coast Central Credit Union was who I voted for, and they had all their kids dressed up as what they wanted to be when they grew up. So like they had little pilots and little a chef, and there was a princess, but there were all kinds of these kids dressed up in these beautiful, beautiful ways. It was just fun. And then the grown-ups wore like, you know, those hats with the spinners on them and stuff like that. They dressed as the kids. So it was really original. It was beautiful. And it was great to see the kids out there and engaged, because that's our future. You know, let's move them in a good direction. That's really important. And then I got to make sure that the police didn't speed in the parade as well. So that was kind of fun. And then today we went to the cruise ship dedication. Councilmember Arroyo was there, as well as Councilman Castellano. And it was really neat. I got to take 3 passengers off the ship, and we went to, I took them to the Skywalk, and then we did a tour of the zoo, and then we did a tour of Old Town and got pictures with them. And they were texting me throughout the day as to where would be a good place for lunch and where were the bars at and what, you know. And finally this evening, they texted me before this meeting, they were telling me that our Uber is really slow, but they had the best time here and they just loved it. And they were so grateful that we have a community that embraced them the way that we did. And we did. We were like cheering them on and like so grateful. So it was really super, super neat. And that ship is huge. If you guys didn't see it, it's in Lost Coast and a bunch of different things. May 4th, this is almost the last thing I promised. May 4th, these long council reports all night long. That's tomorrow, 3:30 to 5:30 at Sequoia Park. There's going to be a big Star Wars thing happening. They're going to have Kevin Thompson there, who was a stuntman, and he was an Ewok for Star Wars. There's going to be costumers there. There's a costume contest, so wear your costumes, and there'll be prizes. Prizes are always good. There's going to be an obstacle course, a crafts table. It's just going to be a lot of fun. So bring your kids out to the park, and just really, what a great event for everybody. And then the zoo later on that evening will be having something going on at the Skywalk. That is 21 and over, no children. But that's another great thing. And you can get on the Sequoia Park Zoo, either their Facebook page, or you could phone over there to get your reservation. And, and then lastly, I just want to share some appreciation for all of the folks that were standing in front of the courthouse this afternoon on my way to the meeting, who were out there protesting this whole business about the overturning of Roe versus Wade, which I think is totally stupid. And so it was great. That's just my opinion. But it was really great to see our community out there standing up for us. So I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for helping me with the judging. I had no doubts that you would be very, very skilled at that. And also for reminding me about May the 4th, because I had tons of plans for tomorrow and I've bought tickets and I just didn't realize what the date was. So thanks for that. Councilmember Bauer.
Thank you. Just a few things. I attended a meeting with St. Joe's management and Humboldt County staff from mental health, North Coast Health Initiative, and EPD to talk about our mental health and how it affects our ER, our emergency room, how it affects the community. And I'll say, thank you to St. Joe's for leading that. And I think we're going to be making good progress on trying to figure out, short and long-term solutions to deal with that issue that affects us all. And it was great. I felt like we're actually doing something. We're making progress, and there'll be future meetings that we'll attend. And there's one tomorrow actually. I think we all want to tackle this issue. So it was really felt good to be doing something progressive and getting this thing going. I also attended the Cal City's Governance, Transparency, Labor Relations Policy Committee, probably the longest title of a committee at Cal Cities, and we discussed a couple of bills, one being divestment in fossil fuels and another being divestment in companies that work in Russia, and both of those failed. out of committee, I'll say. I'm not super excited about it, but pretty interesting to see all the other city council people, special districts. And we talked about for a long time, 2-hour discussion before we voted on those, and really interesting. And I'm glad I got to be a part of that. And then lastly, on Earth Day, we had Cooper Gulch cleanup, and that was super fun. We had 14 members of the community come out, including Humboldt Bay Fire, stopped by and helped out, which was great. And we filled 2 of those monster green waste dumpsters full of green waste, and not really that much trash. So I hear all kinds of stories about Cooper Gulch being a mess, and we just didn't really pick up much there. But it was great to have, to have the community and to feel like we're accomplishing something. If you walk down the 11th Street stairs, you'll be like, wow, it's all open and beautiful. And yet I look around and all I still see is invasives. And I wish I didn't, but lots more to do there. We're going to try and have another day before people take off for summer. But it was great. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you much. Councilmember Arroyo.
Great. Well, I attended a fisheries conference on Earth Day. I was presenting at the Salmonid Restoration Federation conference down in Santa Cruz. Just a brief presentation talking about engaging with elected officials to support natural resources restoration work. So I spoke from personal experience and was advising other people who are focused on watershed and fisheries projects on how to effectively engage with electeds, and that was fun and well received. And it was also interesting to be in Santa Cruz and kind of see that they're facing some of the same challenges we are. But it's, it was fun, and people were really enjoying, being there and starting to be out and about. And so that was, sometimes it's nice to go out of town for a little bit. Let's see, other things to emphasize. Yeah, I participated in the rhododendron parade. I skated with Humboldt roller derby, and it was raining, so that was probably not great for my skates, but my whole team was skating, so it's like, all right, I'm doing it.
Don't forget the llamas you were pulling.
There were llamas. So I'm amazed we didn't get the most creative. I mean, the kids were amazing. We were right next to the Coast Central float, so I got to see all of their attire. But we did have llamas, a Sasquatch, a pug in a wagon, and a bunch of people on roller skates. So I feel like we were pretty cool too. And our llamas, right before the Carson Park station where there's announcements, our llamas decided to stop and pee in the road. So sorry about the stormwater impacts of that. And there was nothing to be done. And it took multiple minutes. So we really literally held up the whole parade for these pesky llamas. But they were a fun addition. Lots of people learned the difference between a llama and an alpaca in that parade. So that's what I did for the community on that day. And it was really fun welcoming the cruise ship. I also took a carload of people into Old Town. So there was a great shuttle for folks set up, but some of the people took their time just getting off the boat, and then they were waiting for the shuttle, and I said, you know what, I'll just drop you off in Old Town. I'm already going down there. Sounds like Councilmember Burgell had more of a day with the folks that you hung out with. I just gave him a ride into Old Town, but I played tour guide and drove him around a little bit up to the Carson Mansion and yada yada, and just talked a little bit about Old Town. And they were British, and they were like, oh, this wind and cold is fine. It's great. We're having a great time. They had been on the ship for almost 3 months. So we were talking to the master of the vessel and the manager, and they both said, people had been on that ship for different periods of time, and some people just love cruising, and they've been on that boat for like months and happy to just tootle around and go to different places. So anyway, the folks that I talked with were really delighted at the small town welcome reception. They were just not expecting. They weren't sure what to expect, but I don't think they were expecting a whole lot. And they weren't expecting a dock full of people cheering for every single person that got off the boat. So we were maybe a little overexcited, but I think they liked it. They liked the celebrity welcome. And then just a reminder that, this belated Lunar New Year celebration is going to be really fun this weekend in Old Town. And not only does it coincide with Arts Alive, but it's, the lion dancers are going to be fabulous coming from Sacramento and just there to really celebrate in the streets of Eureka. And I don't think I've ever seen a celebration quite like that in Eureka before, so I'm really looking forward to it. And please come out and participate and celebrate Asian American and Pacific Islander culture.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Castellano.
Hey everyone, let's see. So I did go to the cruise ship today. This is going to be a non-sequential order of activities. I'll just say it's my notes are all, but I went to the cruise ship today and greeted everyone. I did not give any tours afterwards. That's amazing that people did because, I had to go back to work, but also I'm celebrating Bike Month. So, participating in Bike Month. So it would not have been appropriate to ride anyone on my handlebars, around town. Also, I'm not yet that good of a bike rider. Maybe I aspired to be so good. So anyway, participate in Bike Month. I'm really enjoying all of the trails we have, and it's nice to see other people out. Let's see. The Eureka survey that if anyone remembers, a couple of months ago, Dr. Amy Rock came from the Department of Geography, Environment, and Spatial Analysis, and that Eureka survey is ready for release. I don't think we've released it anywhere yet, but it's available for the month of May. So hopefully we can get information about that out into the community so folks can talk about what they think about Eureka. I know some people like to talk about what they think about Eureka, so hopefully this provides more opportunity. I've been continuing to meet with the housing working group through the Community Economic Resilience Consortium, and we just spent the past month doing a strategic visioning plan. I just wanted to share that I think more information will be forthcoming, but we came up with 2 priority goals for the group to work on. Number 1 is innovate to expand local housing resources, and 2 is to empower and educate our community. So look for more on that. Along with that, I hosted a pro-housing mixer. I've been continuing to advocate for the Eureka Cultural District and organizing a group of arts and culture leaders from the Cultural District to meet and collaborate together and work on that. I attended the Every Student Succeeds breakfast and the Cal Cities Policy Committee meeting for the Housing, Community, and Economic Development subcommittee there, or policy committee. And it's really interesting, a lot of conversation on the relationship between kind of city rights and states' rights, especially in terms of, when you're looking at things like making sure that there are egalitarian housing policies, across the state. And so there was actually a majority of interest within that committee of really people wanting there to be some kind of balance between city rights and state rights, especially in terms of making sure that policies related to housing are fair and that we're meeting housing goals. But of course, people have lots of different ideas on what that means. So it's always a lively conversation. I met with Assemblymember Wood's representative, Aaron Dunn, about arts advocacy, along with some other local leaders. I presented at the Decolonizing Economics Summit at Cal Poly Humboldt. I didn't make it to the Rhododendron Parade because I'd already worked with Robin Prasker to help coordinate another Wabash cleanup. So we had a lot of fun cleaning, and thank you to Robin and Robert with the City of Eureka, who happy 22 anniversary of your employment with the City of Eureka, Robert. It was the eve of his 22nd anniversary, so we really tackled an invasive bulb with pickaxes. It was great fun, and my hands were really tired for like 2 days afterward. And I know that Councilmember Moulton had a not competing, but a sister cleanup on the same morning over at Highland Park. So thanks for that, Councilmember Moulton. And let's see. Oh yeah, I did meet with the Growers Alliance, the farmers market folks, and they are looking to increase capacity for food storage in the region and in Eureka. So it's something. Anyway, we're not talking about future agenda items, but it is a real need, and there's a real need for more local food. There's so many farmers growing local food, but to make it more available to folks. And then Mayor Seaman and I met with the Strategic Growth Council, which is a state council, and it was really amazing. Actually, this is the director of the state council, and she brought like 6 of the other people in her office to meet with us. And they're very interested in coming to Eureka sometime in June and working with us on how we can bring funding. I know, right? How we can bring funding, some of their funding to Eureka. So that hopefully will lead to really good things. And I am working with Calder from NCRT to plan a dream parade for August 13th. It'll be a walking art parade around the waterfront, doing that with my Ink People hat on, but it's also will be a community event. So start to look for information about that in the near future.
All right.
Sure. So I just wanted to let folks know that May is Mental Health Month, and there will be a parade, not a parade. There'll be a mental health walk from the Hope Center down to the courthouse at noon on May 10th. That's always a great event. They have great speakers. And then second, honestly, I would be remiss if I didn't congratulate Chet Albin for his work and his dedication to bring cruise ships in. It's his vision, and I just wanted to give him a shout out. So I'm done.
Thank you very much. And thank you all for tonight, and we will see you in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye.